honest answers as ever, Joe, as you'd always expect them to deliver. But interesting for me, because this is one of the things we haven't yet talked about before we get into our first match in the quarterfinal of the Pro Tournament, and obviously Mitch as well, is the international rivalry that we've got this weekend. We've talked about the new beginnings, we've talked about the new lineups, we've talked about the new players, but we've also got Europe versus America again.
I have to say, at Worlds, everyone's like, yeah, we're going to see Europe versus NA. Was a bit of a letdown in the end, wasn't it? Not quite the spectacle that we hoped. I think we might see a little bit more of that here, though. That's the great thing that we got. A bit more fire. We heard Double If there saying we're very, very practiced. We feel very, very confident. Fnatic, he's heard, haven't played quite as much as they maybe should have, which, celebrating is one way to go. But at some point, you've kind of got to get back on the horse and get back into your rhythm. Yeah, Mitch, you came back from Worlds, had a bit of a holiday. Some of the players seem to have done the same thing, but CLG seemingly haven't taken holidays and they've been practicing hard.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to what he's saying. If we go back 1 year, we did really well at Worlds. We placed third and or tied fourth with Gambit. And then we went on that break. It's not even celebrating, it's just you need a time. Like eventually playing League end on end, you will burn out and you will need to reset. There's only one moment in the year you can do that. That's October, November after Worlds. Then we didn't take IEM Cologne too seriously, and we got burned for it. We didn't play well enough, and it set in motion like a very, very subpar series of games, and it's definitely indicative that CLG learns from that themselves. They went in, trained really hard. Perhaps Fnatic did not. We can't judge that until we actually see the matches, and we can't even judge those matchup because they still have to play Team Red and Enter Quality respectively.
And I'm glad you've said that, because that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to take a look at the brackets of the Pro Tournament that we've got here this weekend. It's going to start off in the quarterfinals. It looks like this. Red versus Gambit to start with, and then we'll have CLG versus TQL on there, which to quality, I've been struggling with this all week. I really have. Blue.
I like the name. It fits nice. Coming from Turkey to quality. It's nice.
Yeah. Okay. He says it the same way as I do, cool, so we're going to go with that. We're going to start things off though with Gambit versus the Red. So it's a bit of a clash, this one. I quite like the look of this one. It's shaping up to be a bit feisty as well. Do you think, or do you think this is going to be a steamroller?
It's hard to say again because I mean. The Red, they're a team, at least some of them former Instruments of Surrender. We saw them in Moscow for the qualifier for the International Wildcard Tournament. They ended up losing out in that qualifier. But again, it all depends on have they practiced, how have they practiced, who have they practiced against. And on the other side, you've got Gambit, who is the old Gambit now, once again. Edward coming back into the lineup. Yep. And they've been practicing as well. I can't tell you.
Before we get in there, let's just throw out for the people at home the team rosters. First of all, this is the Red. Hopefully we can get that to go up. There you go. That is their team lineup right now. And the good thing is that their old lineup is exactly the same as their new lineup. That's unusual for this for today because it seems like everyone else has changed at least one player, including Gambit, of course, as you rightly said. So the Red. Yeah, they're not going to be favourites in this game. We know that much. Let's take a look at Gambit's lineup as well. I think we'll probably get that up in just a moment, but we can bring that up fairly quickly. And as you said, Krepo, take us through the lineups, because the lineups have changed, but it's just that one key element.
I mean, it's getting rid of Voidal and getting back Edward, which hopefully reinstates like this vanilla Moscow 5 into Gambit gaming that everybody's been dying to see again. We'll have to see whether Edward stayed on the same level of play, whether he refines his synergy with Genja. But let's just face it, the Russians, once they start rolling, they're like a well-oiled machine, and you don't really want to stand in way of that, especially not as like, let's say, a newcomer team. They lost to Gaming Gear in the finals in Russia. They may have not been as experienced. Maybe they can throw a curveball. But I know for a fact that Gambit has been practicing, and I think they have a really awesome track record, don't they? Like in offline events, aside from the
Intel Extreme Masters is basically
their event. It's their event, isn't it?
And one thing that I also fancy Gambit for in this game, in this tournament even, is once again Shyvana is very, very strong, and that was a champion that they brought to the table. It was Gambit that brought Shyvana out. Okay. And again, she's at an incredibly strong level, and they show that they can play in the top lane with Darian, in the jungle with Diamond as well in the past to incredible levels.
And we even saw Kha'Zix being played by Jawa earlier to relatively great effect, and we can definitely see if Alex Ish controls these like assassins with resets as well on top of like a solid team. You know, Darian will always be Darian. Let's face it, this very unique top laner style. He might go 0-5, kill him anyways. We just don't know what's gonna happen exactly, but they all have the tools they need to be back the Gambit of old.
What's the question mark? What's left?
I mean, just prove it.
Yeah.
Okay. One player we haven't spoken about in terms of the lineup now is Edward and the return that him back will have. How much do you think it will have changed the lineup? Do you think it will benefit the lineup, and do you think he brings more back, having had that experience in America now?
Well, I don't know. I don't think his trip to America panned out exactly as he wanted to be. Whether that's his fault, somebody else's fault, I'm not in a position to judge that. I think going initially back to the old 5 members. There's no new member stepping in. You know, when a new member steps in, he's easily to get the blame if something goes wrong. But now it's back to the old Moscow 5, the initial 5 Russians, and there's no way to shift the blame onto one person anymore. It's the team collective again. I feel they opted to get Edward back, so obviously he has maybe worked out issues there were in the past, and he's ready again to fit into that Russian puzzle. And I think it should definitely be a good call for them.
Okay, Joe?
And this is a team, let's not forget, that were incredibly dominant for a full year. I mean,
except against CLG.
Except against CLG, where they constantly
You had to get that one in there.
had like really long games and then threw them in the
Really
end.
interesting game.
Hey,
really
hang on.
interesting
Hold on,
games.
gentlemen.
That's
Hold
it.
on, gents.
But I think what they lacked after a while was this fire to win that happens when you've been a dominant team and you've not switched any members. You know, they were, I think, hoping when Edward left that whoever they brought in would inspire the team, really grab them and, you know, start to perform like they were used to behind that. And the fact that they brought Edward back gives them that stable lineup that they had before, gives them the exact 5 players that they dominated with, and hopefully brings back the passion and the will to win.
But any place less than first for Gambit is a loss. They've said that so many times.
Okay.
So they'll have to go for the win.